What's up and welcome back to another Ankeny Van Builds video. Today we're going to be installing the FlareSpace bump outs, which allow you to sleep side to side in a Ford Transit. So I'm going to go over the list of everything that you're going to need for this install, as well as showing you how I install it. So let's go ahead and start this video. Alright, starting with what came included in the FlareSpace itself. When you order it, it came with 3 tubes of this adhesive that's going to go on the inside of the FlareSpace, and that's what sticks it and adheres it to the van. And it obviously came with the 2 FlareSpace panels themselves. You can order with or without the windows. I ordered one with a window and one without. But when the FlareSpaces do show up, it is not painted, so that is something that you're going to have to do yourself or find somewhere to paint it for you. I ended up painting it black, and I'll go over all the steps on how I did that as well. So continuing on, you're going to need a drill with a step-down drill bit, or it doesn't have to be a step-down drill bit. I think it helps drill through metal easier, but essentially you want a drill that's big enough to get a jigsaw blade through that hole, so then you can cut the outside of the template for the FlareSpace. So I already said it, but you need a jigsaw, and I bought a pack of specific metal blades for this. It makes a world of difference. Then after you cut it out, you're going to need a metal file, as well as some more Rust-Oleum paint, and I like to spray it onto one of these throwaway brushes just to paint the outside edge. So you file it down, get all the burrs out, paint the edges so that it doesn't rust. Then you're going to need some sort of sanding block or sandpaper just to scuff up the outside of the van itself so that the adhesive has something better to grab onto, as well as some mineral spirits to clean up the edges and the outside so that there's no dust or anything to prevent or weaken that adhesion to the side of the van. And then with the adhesive, you need a caulking gun to put it on and some automotive tape. You put this on the top of the van before you stick the FlareSpace up. That way when you go to put the panel up, you can pull the tape down and that'll hold it in place, and then you let it sit there for 30 hours. Some other things that are nice to have are some gloves so you can protect your hands, not get any of the mineral spirits or adhesive on it, and it doesn't leave as many fingerprints on your FlareSpace as you're putting it in. And then on the inside, I'm going to use a stir stick just so if any of that adhesive gets pushed into the inside of the van, I can smooth it out and clean it up. That way it doesn't fall into the van itself. And then if you are installing a FlareSpace with a window, you're going to need some butyl tape and a drill with a Phillips head on it so that you can attach the window to the FlareSpace itself after it's been put up. So that should be all the tools that you need to install the FlareSpace. Let's go ahead and talk about how I painted and primed the panels, and then after that I'll show you how I am going to install them on the van itself. So what I did here is I started out with some sandpaper and I scuffed up the surface of the FlareSpace so that the primer will stick to it a little bit better. I then wiped it down with a wet cloth and then again with a dry cloth, making sure it's completely dry before I grabbed my spray primer. This is a black automotive spray primer. I used about 3 cans of this stuff and 2 coats before moving on to the actual color that I wanted to use, which was another black automotive spray paint. Went back and forth, starting at the edges, making sure I got all those, and then went to the surface of it. It took about 4 coats total to get a nice, smooth, and even finish on it. And I believe it took about 5 cans of this spray paint. I'll leave a link in the description to the type of spray paint that I used. Now moving on to actually cutting out the FlareSpace themselves, I started out by drilling holes in the corner so that my jigsaw can get through there, and then I followed that factory stamp cutout. I drew a straight edge across those ribs so that we got a nice even cut. I had my friend Seth follow me with a vacuum so that none of the shavings got inside the van, and you can see here we started putting tape on the outside so the actual panel doesn't jiggle themselves. Then after a test fit, we went through, sanded down and shaved down any of the burrs and sharp edges of the cutout, and then I followed it back with the primer so that none of the edges we just cut will rust, and then scuffed up the outside edge where the FlareSpace was going to go with a sanding block to help with the adhesive. Put up some tape to prep the area, and then for each panel used an entire tube of that adhesive, leaving a 1/2 inch gap on the outside. And you can see once it was up there, you just pull the tape down and that's what holds it in place. And then where there was any squeeze out, I got some mineral spirits and a stir stick to help take out that extra adhesive that squeezed out at the top. Same thing on the other side, leave about a ½ inch from the outside using an entire tube of that stuff. Make sure it's lined up, pull the tape down, push along the outside edges so that it got a nice fit, and the tape will hold it there, and you gotta let it cure for 30 hours. Same thing with cleaning up the outside with wherever that squeeze out was. Now on to installing the window. There's a weather strip on the actual window itself and then the trim ring that holds it on the inside. To follow through with the provided self-tapping screws with all the holes. Make sure the window is level on all sides, up and down, and then just screw into the metal of the frame itself. Now that the flare space is in and you've waited the 30 hours for the adhesive to cure, the next and final step is to check for leaks. And the way you want to check for leaks is to use a garden hose and not a pressure washer. That's what the instructions say to do. I believe the pressure washer would be too much and it might damage some of the seal or something like that. So with a garden hose, check the seal, and if it's good, then your flare space is done. So once you spray it down with the hose and there's no leaks found, that is the final step and your flare spaces are in. I hope this video was super helpful for you guys. If it was, let me know by leaving a comment, subscribing to my channel, and liking this video. It really helps me out. It sends my video out to more people. So I'd really appreciate if you guys did that for me. One last thing before I close this video out is this fan is actually going to be for sale. This is not a custom build. So once this fan is done, it'll be posted online and up for grabs for anybody who wants it. This fan is going to be sick, so please watch the rest of my videos. I'll be posting updates on my Instagram. If you're interested and want to reach out about this fan already, I will leave my email in the description below. But I'm super excited to continue on this process, continue this build, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.